Hi, my name is Edwin Millar, and I am the Curator of Folk Arts here at the Castellani Art Museum of Niagara University. Gathered Together Quilting Niagara is our new folk arts exhibition all about quilts, developed in collaboration with the Kenan Center and the Kenan Quilters Guild. Featuring the works of over 15 local quilters, Gathered Together provides a great introduction for those hoping to learn more about this traditional art, from the influence of math to the importance of fabric color, choice, and placement in creating each work. Join me as we take a quick walkthrough of this exhibit. Community is the heart of quilting. It is the traditional art that brings together not only fabric, but people, family, friends, and fellow quilters. Family might provide a motivation to start quilting, like it was for Susie Spicer, who learned to sew from her father and mother at the age of 7, but later made her first quilt for her son right after he was born. Quilt classes, like the one Donna Kathke took to get her start in the tradition, might spark a lifelong friendship with another quilter, sharing in the journey together. Or maybe, like Stephanie Drace, community connections and fellow quilters provided the spark that reignited a passion for quilting after some time away from the tradition. Every quilt is a story about community. Whether the quilt is made for someone else or for themselves, the bonds of fellowship are ingrained in every stitch, all of those shared memories, experiences, and knowledge. Quilting is a tradition that truly radiates the warmth of togetherness. Whenever you look at a quilt, you're looking at math. So much of quilting involves and is dependent on mathematical concepts, from your basic addition and subtraction all the way through to concepts like tessellations. When you look at traditional patterns, you might spot some geometric shapes. The Lone Star pattern found on Kim Jeffries' quilt, for example, is made up of fabrics cut into a rhombus or diamond shape that together create a star. Rulers and measurements are everywhere in this tradition and help to ensure that each individual strip of fabric is consistent in size. This ensures that every quilt block can fit together properly, which is especially important for blocks like the rail fence design of Georgia Spenudakis McDonald's quilt. Templates, where the math and measurements are planned ahead of time, help quilters like Jan Jordan get creative in organizing and arranging fabrics and blocks into new designs, like the log cabin blocks that blend together to create the rows of houses. The relationship between art and math can be found across a wide range of artistic mediums, but perhaps one of the most visible places to spot it is in quilting. Whether we're talking about measurements, templates, or even maybe a spreadsheet inventory of fabric in a quilter's stash, some form of math is used to create each and every quilt. As a traditional art practiced today, quilting is not only about tradition and what came before, it is also about innovation and the here and the now. Quilting encompasses the old and the new in terms of designs, tools, technologies, and ways of doing things. It is ever evolving, adding new ideas and practices into the tradition as each day passes. Innovation might be found in the resourcefulness of a quilter like Mary Ann de Maison, choosing and blending different types of fabric into a pattern or block to fit her specific vision of a quilt. New designs, whether influenced by tradition or something completely new, are constantly emerging, like Dottie Timke's quilt that features Kakeshi dolls, traditional wooden dolls from Japan. New ways of preparing fabric for quilting might include something like the snow dyeing used by Martha Krupa in this quilt. Snow dyeing is a technique of dyeing fabric by putting color dye over melting snow to change its color. The internet has provided new opportunities for quilters to share their work, find inspiration, and expand their community through places like Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. Quilting carries tradition and innovation in every stitch, bringing together the past, present, and future into one work. How do quilts become quilts? It is, after all, a tradition where many separate pieces come together to create one thing. Well, there's a number of techniques and processes used every step of the way, from preparing the fabric to constructing each block. The separate fabrics used in a quilt are sewn together in a process known as piecing. Debbie Calesi used a technique known as paper piecing, where paper is used as a temporary guide for sewing to achieve the sharp, precise corners of this quilt. Applique might be used by quilters like Kathy McIntosh to add new ornamentation and details onto the quilt top, like leaves, flower petals, birds, and more. Preparing fabrics for use through a technique like fussy cutting allows quilters like Barbara Crombine to preserve sought-after designs in the fabric pattern so they can be used directly in the quilt. The importance of technique and process to the tradition is right there in the name. Quilting is the stitch that brings together the three layers that make up a quilt: the quilt top, the batting, and the backing. Whether quilted by hand, machine, or long arm, a quilt isn't considered a quilt until it is quilted. Fabric is everything to quilting, from being the raw material used in a quilt to a potential source of inspiration for a new design. Fabric color, placement, and feel all play important roles in the creation of every design, every block, and every quilt. Fabric color might be used to emphasize certain elements or areas of the quilt, like in this Escher-esque quilt made by Barbara Sanford, where fabric is actually placed into a quilt block can greatly alter its design, like in this quilt by Linda Davis. Linda, through fabric placement, created the appearance of curves in this quilt despite being made up of only the straight lines of log cabin blocks. Batik fabrics have become a popular type of cotton-dyed material to use in quilts and are one of Judy Shriver's favorite types to use due to its vibrancy and patterns, and was used in the creation of this French braid quilt. When selecting a fabric, quilters pay attention not only to that one piece, but also the whole, envisioning how it will complement or contrast the other fabrics used in the quilt or block. Fabric is more than just a material. It is the palette from which quilters create their works. Quilt patterns and designs come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. From geometric patterns to figurative landscapes, mug rugs to king-size quilts, muted colors to bright neon, quilts nowadays might look like, well, anything, which begs the question, where exactly do these designs for a quilt come from? Maybe the design was inspired by fabric, like Sue McKenna's quilt, which took a length of fabric and created a one-block wonder pattern out of that one stretch. Or inspiration might come from a family member. Nancy Smith made this quilt for her father, paying homage to his love of crossword puzzles and his grandchildren. Inspiration can also be found in the promise of a challenge and of pushing boundaries, like Mike Millar's passion for challenge and trying new things, leading to the creation of this patchwork sports jacket. The inspiration for the design of a quilt can come from any number of places. It could come just as easily from a pattern in a floor tile or a flower in a garden, as it could from a book of quilting patterns or even a fellow quilter. Whether a traditional quilt with traditional patterns or a contemporary art quilt, the catalyst that sparks the design of a quilt and gives it that special meaning and purpose can come from any number of places. Quilts are all around us. They're created every day in our local communities, in our neighborhoods, and in our regions. They are not only works of art, but they can also be educational tools, teaching us about the shared cultural heritage of where we live. Lynn Urban's quilt depicts the landscapes of two local Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in Buffalo, the Darwin Martin House and Great Cliff, both renowned examples of the architectural heritage of this region. Quilts can teach us about important local figures, like this quilt about Aaron Mosel, an African-American brickmaker and brickyard owner in Lockport who successfully led a push to integrate the school district in the 1870s. The bicentennial quilt, created by the Kenan Quilters Guild, serves as a map of Niagara County where many of its members reside, with local landmarks, activity, and regional heritages like farming and boating. Iconic imagery like the stained glass window of Carolyn Sherman's quilt can provide another visual connection to the quilters' regional community. This design comes from a stained glass window found at the William Heath House in Buffalo, also designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Throughout Western New York, quilters continue to make and create works that reflect the cultural life and history of this specific region. With every quilt, quilters and viewers share in exploring the community context in which it was made and used, from the availability of certain materials to the design and content of a quilt. Quilts are one of the most well-known and widespread of traditional art forms, with different versions and variations practiced throughout communities all across the world. And I think that's what I really love most about quilting. It is a tradition rooted in the bonds that unite individuals into one community. Quilts are as much about this one quilter, this one block, and this one moment as it is every quilter, every block, and every moment. The fabric, the memories, the knowledge, the perseverance, everything that goes into a quilt is bound together into one work. Each quilt another block in a great patchwork quilt that stretches across our world, connecting the many pieces and patches together into one work. Thank you for joining us on this walkthrough of our new folk arts exhibition, Gathered Together, Quilting Niagara, made possible through collaboration with the Kenan Center and the Kenan Quilters Guild, and through the support of the New York State Council on the Arts. We hope you enjoyed. Tune in to the remaining videos in this series to learn more about each quilter and quilt on display in this exhibit. Thank you for watching.